to the Let's Talk program, and welcome everybody. I'd just like to acknowledge that I speak from unceded Aboriginal land of the Cammeraygal people, and I'd like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and also pay my respects to any Aboriginal people who may be with us tonight or watching a recording of this at some time. So tonight's topic is managing stress. And actually, I find this a fascinating topic, I have to tell you. Being a bit of a researcher and someone who's studied neuroscience for the last probably 2 at least decades as a part of my work, I think there's so much to be gained from neuroscience, and it gives us a look inside ourselves in a way that we've not had prior to this. So look, I hope you'll find tonight's session informative, and I am going to share my screen with you. And this session really does need a presentation, a visual presentation. So that's what you're going to get. And I'll come back at the end of the presentation. Okay, well, what is stress, first of all? Stress is often viewed in an exclusively negative manner. For instance, we think about work deadlines piling up, family dramas possibly going on, busy schedules, too much work, maybe someone being bullied, there's conflict in the family, there's conflict at work, there's conflict somewhere else, there's conflict environmentally, as we are seeing quite a lot of at the moment. And just generally busy schedules can wear us really thin. And we wind up feeling drained. So stress occurs when we feel an imbalance between a challenge and the resources that we have to deal with the challenge. So most of us will experience 2 different kinds of stress in our lives. There's negative or distress, and there's positive stress, or which is, you don't hear this word really, eustress. And so then we also have chronic distress, and this can lead to chronic disease, whereas eustress enhances motivation and confidence. So chronic distress is defined as the physiological or psychological response to a prolonged internal or external event. It can lead to poor and unhealthy eating. It can lead to a shrinkage in the size of our brain, believe it or not, and an increased likelihood of disease and chronic disease. So I really like this picture, because what it shows us, think of arousal as at that bottom axis as stress. Now, stress is not really a bad thing. We need stress. We need a certain amount of stress. Otherwise, we will just go into terrible inertia and apathy, and really lose a sense of well-being. This is what can happen to people who are locked up indefinitely in our immigration detention centres. It's something that is when people are constantly oppressed, this will be the response of going into this very low, depressed sort of state. And we've seen it happen to our First Nations people in very oppressed remote communities. And, you know, I mean, we're talking oppression for a very long time here. So moderate levels of daily manageable stress or eustress are good for us. We need it. And we know that it helps protect against oxidative damage, which is linked to aging and disease. So stress, actually, the right amount of stress enhances our motivation. We need a bit of anxiety to get us moving. And it's especially if we've got deadlines. A deadline enhances our problem solving and builds confidence and skills that are important for our future achievements. And with increased resilience and confidence, people tend to feel less threatened and more in control of their situations. So, for example, after facing a fear, we will feel more equipped to handle it in the future. And stress can also promote social bonding. It helps to build interpersonal relationships, which are key to our overall health. Talking to friends and loved ones and even people we don't know so well, colleagues, this will heal and lower our stress levels quite significantly. And so I just want to talk to this picture in front of you for a moment. You can see this curve, this bell curve here. So at one end, we've got low stress, which will also can also represent depression and apathy. At the top of the bell curve, we've got an optimal level of arousal and optimal performance. So that's when we're really enjoying what we're doing. It might be our job, our work. It may be something else that we're doing. But whatever it is, we're getting the right amount of stress and arousal that will actually be producing endorphins for us. So we're going to feel fulfilled and rewarded and really good when we get the right amount of stress. We get too much stress, we're then on the downward side of that bell curve. And generally what can start becoming very, very high, too high, with prolonged stress, even good stress, we do need a break from. If we have it too much of a good thing, it will still cause anxiety and we will produce stress hormones. So, you know, we need rest, we need breaks, and it's very, very important to get them, even when we're having a good time at work. We can't stay at work 24 hours a day. We need to come home, you know, have a bit of social connection with our family or partner or whoever we live with, or friends, and, you know, relax, do some meditation, watch a show on TV, you know, just unwind and have a change of our brain chemistry. It's very, very important. So I love these diagrams because, they're very corporate, and so they've been done to understand how to get the best out of your workers. Surprise, surprise. And so we don't want to be bored with our work. We want the right amount of stimulation. And so again, we get into that. We need ourselves not to be bored. And so when we get appropriate stimulation, then we'll kind of get in the flow, is how I would describe it with our work. The day goes quickly, time flies by, we're enjoying what we're doing, we've got a feeling of achievement, and that is the eustress, or the positive stress, and that takes us into the top of the bell curve. And that's ideally the place that we want to be with what we're doing, and ideally that is where any conscientious employer would want their workers to be. Unfortunately, it certainly is not the reality. Because someone who's working long hours, a lot of companies in the corporate sector now expect their employees to work, 10-hour, 12-hour, sometimes 14-hour days, which is ridiculous because nobody can keep that up and keep their health and their mental health in good shape. So as you can see, what that leads to is fatigue, burnout, and extreme distress. If someone is being bullied at work, or there's an unpleasant, stressful situation happening at work, I mean, they may love the actual work that they're doing, but if the social dynamics or some other kind of political dynamic is bringing in an element that is very uncomfortable into the workplace, then that is also going to cause highly stressful situations and, again, burnout. We're not built to be robots. We have feelings, and we're not automatons who can just absorb and deal with endless amounts of stress. It's just not who we are. Okay, so here's another diagram I love. So we go from boredom into a comfort zone. Then optimal performance is the stretch zone. And then we cross over from that deep green section, coming down the bell curve again, where there's strain and eventually burnout. So I'm sure there's not a person on this planet who hasn't experienced the negative, over the age of about 17 or younger, who hasn't experienced the negatives and positives of pressure. You get too much pressure and you feel you can't cope. If there's not enough, then you struggle to get things done because, pressure, a bit of stress and anxiety, that's what motivates us to jump out of bed in the morning, energetically looking forward to the day. Aiming for the sweet spot in the middle where that deep green section, where the right pressure equals peak performance and health, takes very careful stage management and practice, and also being in the right sort of environment that works for you, whether that's the home environment, the work environment, or whatever else. So we have yet another diagram, pretty much saying the same thing. And once we hit the top of the bell curve, we are open to become fatigued. We keep it up, we keep up that level of stress and pressure, we will go into exhaustion and start producing, once there's stress overload, can be such a fine line between the optimum stress and the overload, and many people walk that line, and once we cross the line, we become very tired, and those good feelings start to decrease and can move into too much anxiety. So we really start feeling the effect of all those stress hormones we're producing, which can lead to feelings of panic or anger or anxiety, and then a kind of breakdown in the extreme stress section, which leads to absolute burnout. And anyone who's been burned out knows exactly how that feels. I know that feeling well, have known that feeling well. So, this idea that stress can be helpful or unhelpful is very, very important for us to understand, because in the understimulation area, there's fatigue, boredom, frustration, dissatisfaction, which can take us into depression. And then when we get into the ideal or the optimal zone, we're more creative, we can problem solve really well, there's progress, there's change, it's just such a good place for all of us to be, and it's what we need to aim for. And our workplaces, many of them do aim for this. A good workplace is very conscious of these issues and aims for this, to keep their workers, involved and at the optimal level. And then pushing people past the tipping point into a level of overstimulation, again, causes exhaustion, low productivity, and people become very dissatisfied and can develop low self-esteem. Years ago, I worked in a place where I actually resigned, and just after I left, every single employee went off on stress leave. Just after I left, I could see what was going on. Anyway, so now these two pictures in front of you, the one on the left, the coloured one, is a brain that is lit up with extreme stress. The calm brain is on the right. And so I just want to talk about stress and the brain, because repeated stress can have a huge impact on the brain, putting us at risk of a number of physical and psychological problems. So repeated stress or chronic stress is a trigger for persistent inflammation in the body. And, you know, inflammation is the new 4-letter word, because chronic inflammation will lead to a range of health problems, including heart disease, diabetes, stroke, and it erodes our immunity, generally speaking. And so the brain is normally protected from circulating molecules by the blood-brain barrier, but under repeated stress, this barrier leaks, and these inflammatory proteins that are circulating in the blood get into the brain. And so the brain's hippocampus is a critical region for learning and memory. It's particularly vulnerable to these insults. And studies in humans have shown that inflammation can adversely affect the brain systems linked to motivation and mental agility. So there's also evidence of chronic distress effects on hormones in the brain, including cortisol, which we produce when we're stressed, and a corticotropin releasing factor. And higher prolonged levels of cortisol have been associated with mood disorders, as well as shrinkage of the hippocampus. It can also cause many physical problems, including irregular menstruation. Now, it's well established that chronic stress leads to depression, which is probably the most common disability with anxiety in the world, and it's recurrent. So there are many reasons for this, and they can be linked to changes in the brain. So the size of the hippocampus reduces because of persistent exposure to stress hormones and inflammation. So chronic stress ultimately also changes the chemicals in the brain, which modulate our ability to think and our mood. And serotonin, which is a brain chemical, is very important for mood regulation and well-being. And that's why a lot of people end up taking what we call SSRIs. They're used to treat depression and anxiety. And the fact that some, you know, I mean, the statistics on the numbers of people taking these things is just off the map. It's just ridiculous. They don't actually treat the cause, you know, they're a Band-Aid. So there are huge consequences from stress. So let's have a look at the brain. Down the bottom there of this picture, we see that little red area. That's our survival brain, and that's where our fight or flight system is located. And so that at the base of the brain there, that's called the first brain. The brain's top of the brain stem, we actually call the first brain. And that's also our primitive brain. Reptiles, this is the only brain they have. And so it's our alarm system that I've been speaking about over the last few weeks. And so when we're stressed, that will go off. Our alarm system will go off, and we start producing a lot of adrenaline and cortisol, which puts us in a kind of highly alert state, ready to fight or run. And if there's no if there's no need to either fight or run, then those chemicals really damage us physiologically and mentally. That green section is our limbic brain, or our emotional brain. And that will be highly reactive when the first brain, our alarm system, is going off. And up in that yellow section, our smart brain, or our prefrontal cortex, when our alarm system's going off and our limbic brain is really switched on with all those alarm emotions, then the prefrontal cortex, the smart brain, actually shuts down completely. We can't use it. So we can't actually think rationally when we're stressed. It just, at the most basic level, we lose our rational and cognitive ability. And so what we get with stress is this looping. And we have our adrenal glands down there at the bottom, and they sit on top of the kidneys. They produce adrenaline. We have a vagus nerve that sort of attaches to the brain, and it comes down the neck, both sides of the neck, and it goes to every single organ in the body. And so literally in a millisecond, a message will spread from the limbic brain, which is incidentally where our soul sits in the brain. That message will be sent through the vagus nerve to every organ in the body in a millisecond. That's how fast stress works. So it comes from our emotional brain. That comes from, the first brain, it hits our emotional brain, and bang, we are in a state of we can be in a state of high stress. Or low stress, as the case may be, but stressed. And then this loop keeps going around if we are constantly stressed. For someone who is in an abusive relationship, for instance, for someone who's being bullied at work or at school or at some place they spend a lot of time at in their life, if there is a condition or an underlying situation in our life that is causing constant discomfort and that is disempowering to us, if there's somebody in our circle who's giving us a hard time, then that will cause this stress, perpetual stress. And, sometimes we try and repress it and try and ignore it, hoping that it'll go away, which of course it doesn't. And so it's just undermining us physiologically and psychologically all the time. And eventually, the effects of this are going to play out. It's going to have an effect on our gut. And in more recent years, I think there have been very interesting studies and quite a few programs on television about the gut, the microbiome. And these are the little microbiome, are the little bugs in our gut that have a huge determining effect on our entire mental and physical state and emotional state. And I would say also spiritual. It is really quite extraordinary. We can't separate the mind and the body. We cannot. Oh, yes, there he is, overworking, having a hard time, just absolutely fatigued and stressed out. So we have here what's called the autonomic nervous system. Now, this is the autonomic nervous system I was talking about a couple of weeks ago in some depth, because it is our whole nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system encompasses our entire nervous system, which is made up of our sympathetic nervous system and our parasympathetic nervous system. And when we're stressed, our sympathetic nervous system goes right off. And that's, our alarm system, our fight or flight. The parasympathetic nervous system calms us down again. And so we can look at it as a kind of ladder. So when the vagus nerve is highly activated, there's that feeling, I collapse, I shut down, I feel buried under a huge load, and it all feels too much. It's all on top of me. I feel alone and despairing, and that's when I can feel empty and full of dread and darkness. And it is not a good place to be. Some years ago, I was involved in an area that brought me in touch with the very high number of medical suicides, medical professionals. And people, we know that, there are high suicide rates in certain professions. So we have to look at the amount of stress that people have to deal with in those professions. And I remember when it was psychiatrists and dentists were at the top of that, the statistical chart for medical suicides. I don't think they are any longer enjoying being at the top. But, nobody should be there. That's the thing, nobody. And so sympathetic activation, the right amount, will take us more up towards the top. And then there in the middle, I'm getting overwhelmed. I'm having a hard time keeping up. I feel anxious. I feel irritated. And the world can seem dangerous, chaotic, and unfriendly. And then right up at the top, where we have the right amount of activation, of vagal activation. You know, I feel at ease. I'm managing whatever comes my way. I'm empowered. I'm connected. I'm feeling really socially engaged. I'm enjoying connecting socially. I can stand back and get a good meta view of the big picture. I can connect to the world. I connect to everything I'm doing. And life feels good. Everything feels really great. And so, you know, there are, I won't go too deeply into all this, but if this is a good diagram. Some of us, you know, will favour certain parts of the body. I know in my working life, I have been through I have done intensely stressful work for much of my working life, which has resulted in migraine headaches, chronic migraine headaches. You'll hear many chronic migraine sufferers when they retire say, it's funny, my headaches have stopped. Or when you go on holiday. So some people, you know, we all put stress into different parts of our body. And so headaches are a common one. Digestive problems, not digesting your food properly. Stress can increase the production of stomach acid, which can lead to heartburn and refluxes and unpleasant things. Some people get ulcers and other digestive problems. Irritable bowel syndrome is a stress issue. And of course, stress leads to rapid breathing when you're anxious. You can develop, you know, breathing too much and too short, shallow breaths can cause a lot of problems, like panic attacks. And so then, you know, the body is not modulating the breathing properly, and then we have to consciously get a hold of our breathing and bring our breathing down to less than 6 breaths per minute. And that will immediately bring our stress levels down and the production of stress hormones. It will also bring them down. Risk of heart attack is increased because of this sustained high heart rate and blood pressure. Yeah, high blood pressure, sustained high blood pressure can lead to a heart attack. And stress hormones make your heart pump faster, and that can feel pretty bad too. Our mental state, we can get chronic stress, leads to a depression. There's insomnia. There's our immune system is definitely weakened by stress. Diabetes, you know, one of the casualties of stress in our body is high blood sugar all over the place, and then diabetes. And then there can be fertility problems, there can be erectile problems, there can be menstrual problems, stomach aches and stomach migraines and refluxes and all kinds of problems. The libido can disappear with stress. And if also when people are taking SSRIs, that will also get rid of the libido, that medication, which is why a lot of people don't like taking it. And our muscles contract and tighten up, and not just in our legs, in our neck, shoulders, back, lower back, I mean, all over our body and in our legs as well. And those tense muscles, calf muscles, will cause tense muscles right up our body. And eventually, you know, that's going to give us a headache. And so here's another stressed person in front of us having a problem. And it's just another way of looking at what we've just been through. So it's a little bit more detailed, and I don't really have time to go into all that detail, but I think you by now get the idea. And so we need circuit breakers. Even when we're doing something we love, we're doing a job we love, we're, you know, really into whatever it is, very immersed in something. If you do it too much, it's not good. Moderation is the key. So we need circuit breakers for our well-being. So after a tough day, and look, not even a tough day, maybe a day in which we've worked hard, we've finished the day feeling really satisfied with what we've done, we've achieved, we've had a good day, it's just gone. The day has just disappeared in a flash because, you know, I was having such a good time doing what I was doing. I still need to have a break. I need to come home, unwind, relax, you know, have a nice connect and conversation with my partner, my family, whoever it is I might be living with, or going out and meeting a friend for dinner, whatever it is, or coming home and meditating, having some quiet time. But I have to change my brain chemistry, because even, you know, as we've seen in those bell curves, too much good stress will push us over the line. And so I need to also not be working all the time. I need to give my brain a break. So I need to schedule in time for social connection with friends, doing different things, having some fun, doing some sport and some physical activities, really, really important. Having holidays and little trips away, you know, maybe every few weeks. You know, if you're having to get through a stressful time, make sure that you're getting those breaks scheduled in, little trips away for weekends and things like that. Doing hobbies and following up on interests that give you a lot of pleasure. And of course, you know, engaging with your social networks, your friends, your loved ones, and plenty of rest, relaxation, and yes, meditation. So good for the brain. You know, meditation has an incredible effect on the brain. And as I was saying very recently, talking about the research on the brain, non-meditators who were involved in some research projects were taught mindfulness, which isn't even, it's a step towards meditation. It's not actually meditation, but they did around about 20 to 27 minutes of mindfulness a day for 3 months. And after 3 months, they were put in very stressful situations, and their stress hormones within that stressful scenario had dropped 51%. And that was backed up by the kind of brain waves they were producing. They were, even when put under all that stress, they were producing brain waves that showed they weren't stressed. They were able to remain in a very calm and alert state. So they weren't shut down at all. And so we need to know, because, you know, we live in a world now that is terribly stressful. You know, you turn on the news, you open the newspaper, and it's instant stress. We need to know how to rest, relax. Meditation, I think, is vital for anybody in this, at this time in our world, because life is just so fast and so stressful. And, you know, in many ways, so uncertain. You know, we're in a pandemic environment now, and we don't know what's around the corner. We have to be able to stay calm and think rationally and deal with it. You know, I think it's fascinating what the research has shown is that stress can interfere with our balance between rational thinking and emotions. And so, you know, the stressful news about the global spread of the coronavirus caused people to go to their supermarket frequently and hoard hand sanitizers, tissues and toilet paper and food. So much so that all our supermarkets got emptied out. Despite reassurance by the government, there's plenty of stock available. And this is because it's thought that stress may force the brain to switch to what it's called a habit circuit. And so under stress, brain areas such as, now it's called the putamen, and it's a round structure at the base of the forebrain, shows greater activation. And this has been associated, exactly the same activation is associated with hoarding behaviour in people who hoard. Hoarding is a symptom of high anxiety and stress. You know, it is now a diagnosable disease, hoarding. It's very obvious when somebody has that disease. And so the same part of the brain that hoarders, that is very stimulated in a hoarder, is what has been associated now with the pandemic. Isn't that interesting? And so It plays a role in our emotional cognition, and it enhances irrational fears, eventually making these fears override the brain's normal ability for cold, rational decision-making. And so there's an explanation for why the supermarkets were empty. So we know how we can bring our stress levels down. We've talked about them tonight, but getting good nutrition, a good nutritious food, not eating junk food and rubbish, you know, and the fast foods. We need to get good, nourishing food and cook it and eat it. Don't overcook it. We need to have a really good balanced diet. If we're stressed, you know, we can really help ourselves by doing all the right things rather than the wrong things. A lot of people will drink too much, smoke too much, maybe take some, you know, start taking medications or illicit drugs, too much alcohol, whatever, to try and calm down. And that just makes it all worse. So what's in front of you is what we really need to be conscious of. Having lovely, enjoyable social time with our families and friends and loved ones. Very, very, very important to have that. And again, rest, relax, meditate every day. And I want to leave you with some beautiful words from Dadi Prakashmani, who was, until 2007, was the administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris. And she said, only a powerful soul can afford to be humble. Only a powerful soul can offer love. When we are weak, we become selfish. When we are empty, we take. But when we are filled, we automatically give to all. That is our nature. And she said those words in San Francisco in 1984, or it might have been 85, but it was one of those years. I was there when she said that. So I want to leave you with those words because exploring our spirituality through meditation is a very important antidote to stress. Meditation, stress changes our brain, and meditation also changes our brain in a good way, in the way we need it to change. So, Om Shanti and Namaste. So, are there any questions at this point? Don't forget to turn your mic on if you want to ask a question. And if you want to ask a question, it'd be nice to have your camera on as well. Ah, there you are.
Question.
See you. Great. Ask away.
I have a question. What would be a suitable meditation to do of a night time?
You mean to bring yourself really
Yeah,
down from stress, to
yes,
really
yes,
get yourself nice and calm. And
that's right. Yes,
do you like to use commentaries to raise, or,
yes, yes,
you
yes,
do?
I do like commentaries. Yes.
And do you do any sort of particular meditation, or?
Just commentaries, but I'm finding it hard to sort of do it of a night time. I need to get into the practice of that. I do mornings, so I don't have a problem during the day, but I seem to lack of a night time. I guess I sort of get tired and think I'll just go to sleep, and then I try
Right.
to do it if I'm going to, like, as I lay down, but then that's not good because sometimes it just puts me straight to sleep.
Which can be a good thing too.
Yeah, yeah, it can be. Yes.
Yeah. Well, do you have any, look, there are a huge number of commentaries on the
Oh,
internet,
yeah.
as I'm sure you know.
Mm.
Don't need me to tell you that. Brahma Kumaris have a lot of really beautiful commentaries
Mm-hmm.
that, I suggest you might like to experiment with some of
Yeah,
those.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They've got a wide variety. They've been putting out commentaries for decades, ever since I started meditating. That's when they started putting out commentaries, and that is now almost 40 years.
Mm.
So,
Do you think that I should do it sort of, when's the best time to do it's I guess at the end of the day, it's just an individual thing, I guess.
no, there are very important times to meditate, and
Mm.
the most important is first thing when you wake up in the morning.
Yeah, I do that, yes.
Good on
Yes.
you. That's the most important. And last thing before you go to bed at night is also really important
Okay.
to
Okay.
meditate,
All right. Well,
and to just close the accounts of the day, to complete the
yes.
day for yourself.
Yes.
You might have had all kinds of things happen, or you might not, but just to bring the day to closure, and anything that might have
Yes.
happened to
Yeah, that's
closure,
the
and
answer
let
I
it
guess I
go.
was looking for. Yes. Yes. To
Yeah.
do it just before bed. Okay. Great. Thank you so much.
You're
And it was very, very informative.
Oh, good.
Very good. Yeah, I'm sorry I'd missed the last couple of weeks, actually. But
Well,
never mind.
they're all up on the website,
Oh, are
because
they?
I've now recorded about, I think tonight is about number 9 or 10.
Oh, wow.
They're all recorded, and they're all on the website. They're actually on YouTube, but the link is on the website, so you can watch them anytime you want.
Oh, okay. I'll try to find them. Thank you.
And these talks I'm doing are designed to be very practical in terms of dealing with our lives at the moment. So I have talked about relationships, and did a couple of sessions on relationships and attachment, relationships and healing. So I've talked about quite a few subjects.
Okay.
Addiction was the first one, and I think there's issues that people are commonly dealing with these days.
Definitely.
And these are all issues that I'm a psychotherapist that I specialise in. So I just think, well, hopefully they will be of use to people.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Om Shanti.
You're so welcome, Om Shanti, Therese. And we're going to finish, before I let you go, we're just going to have some meditation to finish.
Jude?
Yes?
Just before we go to meditation.
Yes, Bronwyn.
Which website is that you're referring to, please?
Sorry, which what? Website?
Which website
the website.
were you referring to?
It's the Australian Virtual Centre website. And
Oh, right. Oh, yes.
Yes. So
if
if
I
you
just
Google
one I didn't have.
Right. Yeah. Even if you Google Australian Virtual Centre, it'll come up on Google. And, once you click on the site, you'll see Let's Talk and all the recordings of all the sessions, and they are now up as of about a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Oh, great. Thank you very much.
And tonight's session will be up probably, tomorrow or in the next few days.
Thank you. I did enjoy
Fantastic.
tonight's session very much indeed, and I too found it very informative. Thank you, Jude.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Oh, and I think it's important to understand about stress because it's so common. We're all subjected to it, and we need to know what it's doing to us and why we keep getting these headaches or this backache or whatever it is, and what to do about it, how to avoid it, because we have to look after ourselves now. It's very important that we know how to look after ourselves.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, we just try to keep on going, don't we?
Yeah, because that is the message we get from society. That's our programming.
Keep on going. Yeah.
And it's so unhealthy.
It is. It certainly is.
Yeah, it really is. It's very damaging.
Yeah, damaging, absolutely.
Yeah, and people seem to take pride in how much stress they can deal with these days. I used to be like that.
Yes.
And now I just look at really the way I've done things over the decades. I just think I was insane,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we grow older and wiser.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Hopefully wiser. Not just older, but hopefully wiser.
Yes, I think we do. Some of us do.
Some of us do.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thanks very much for being with us tonight, and lovely to meet you. And now we will have some meditation. Now, I'm not going to play music because it sounds quite weird over Zoom. So I'm just going to invite you to come into a nice quiet space with me into the dimension of silence, and I will speak a few words to help you get there. And if you wouldn't mind muting yourselves now, that would be really good. Thank you. Okay. So I move my thoughts and my awareness deep within into that beautiful, safe, quiet stillness inside. This place of peace. That I come to when I need to switch off and leave the world behind and just let go. Of the people in my life, even those I love. Just to let everything go. And pull into the stillness and the silence deep inside. I allow everything to recede like waves running backwards down the sand. I just let go more and more. And I feel free. I feel free and I feel just what it is to be. I love just being in the moment, in the bliss. And I feel this love all around me, holding me very gently and tenderly. And I feel completely held and safe. In this beautiful energy. Of deep, deep peace. This is the peace I long for. And the connection with the divine. This is the true meaning. I have searched for. Just being. My heart is open. And I know that I am in this world, but not of it. For I too am a beautiful spiritual being of light. This is my true identity. Om Shanti.